Hi there everybody, I hope you're hanging in there. My name is Rudy, and today we'll be discussing the extensive history of predatory behavior by our current president, Donald Trump. Just like the Epstein video, there will be some things that I mention, but not go too far into the weeds in order to stay on point. The first thing I'd like to go over is Donald Trump's marriages, how they started and how they turned out. Donald Trump has not always portrayed himself as the ladies' man type as he has in recent years. In fact, Ned Eichler, a longtime associate of Donald Trump, wrote in his book, Fame and Fortune, Giants of the Housing Industry Revealed, quoting Trump in his late 20s, "I do not drink, I do not smoke. I am not married yet and I will stay that way. In 5 years I will be the biggest developer in the city, and in 10 years I will be dead." Although none of these would prove to become true. Not very long after that, a 29-year-old Donald Trump would meet his first wife, Ivana. 1 year later, they would be married. That marriage lasted from 1977 to 1992. Although the details of their divorce would be signed behind an NDA, we do know that Donald Trump was having a pretty explicit and public affair with Marla Maples as early as 1989, while still married to Ivana. Ivana Trump would accuse Donald Trump of rape while being deposed for their divorce, but later walked that back in order to avoid legal ramifications for Trump. Their prenuptial agreement would also be changed multiple times throughout their marriage. Without getting too far into the weeds, the divorce was granted uncontested on the grounds of cruel and inhumane treatment by Donald. On the condition that she signed an NDA, Ivana would receive $14 million, a 45-bedroom house, as well as access to Mar-a-Lago 1 month out of the year. Ivana and Donald would remain on good terms all the way up until her passing in 2022, where she would be buried at the Trump Golf Club in Bedminster. Trump then married Marla Maple, one of the women that he was known to be having an affair with during his marriage to Ivana. Their marriage would last from 1993 to 1999, where they separated due to what they would describe as a difference in lifestyle. Donald would then go on to marry his current wife Melania in 2005. Although they're still married, their relationship would not be without its issues. Donald would regularly have extramarital affairs, the most popular of which being with the adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Within their marriage, it seemed relatively clear that Donald wasn't expected to remain faithful. Additionally, although Melania claims that they have a loving marriage, her body language would suggest otherwise. She seems to always be either pulling her hand away, smacking his hand away, lagging dreadfully behind him, making strange faces. I really hope you get that hand one day, Donald. Could I be reading too much into it? Absolutely. People are going to behave strangely, especially those who are constantly in the limelight, the public eye, and being filmed. There are always going to be moments where people aren't at their best, but it just seems to happen so much. Within Donald's marriages, there seemed to be a clear line of mistreatment as well as constant adultery, both of which could be interpreted as a lack of respect for women. So originally I was going to include a compilation of Donald Trump being a misogynist and or making defamatory statements towards women, but it got too long, over 15 minutes worth of footage, so I figured I would pick the cream of the crop just to kind of paint a picture of the type of attitude that he has towards women. And as we go along and talk about other things, I'll include relevant clips like when he's talking about his daughters. So let's do that.
You wouldn't have your job if you weren't beautiful. It's very sad.
It must be a pretty picture you dropped into.
She ate like a pig.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
She's a disgusting pig, right?
Like you wouldn't have your job if you weren't beautiful.
The boob job is terrible. You know, they look like two light posts coming out of a body.
And it just didn't work.
And you're going to have more kids?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, sure. I would.
What do you need that headache for?
Because I like kids. I mean, I won't do anything to take care of them. I'll supply the funds, and she'll take care of the kids, right? So it's not like a big deal. You know, it's not like I'm going to be walking the kids down Central Park.
She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed.
Back in the day.
How come the deeply troubled women,
Yes.
you know, deeply, deeply troubled,
Right.
they're always the best in bed?
Yeah. So, this is who we're talking about here, right? A man who cheated on his first wife with a second wife and cheated on his second wife with a porn star. Right? A man who is a serial cheater. A man who talks about women like objects and treats them like animals. This is our president. The next thing that I would like to do is go over each individual instance of sexual misconduct that has been alleged at Trump. Now, before I do so, I would like to play some, as I said before, more relevant videos that show him talking about how he treats women and what he feels he's allowed to do.
I did try and fuck her. She was married.
It's huge news there.
Furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
So, as many of you may have heard of before, this was the Access Hollywood tape, where he spouts his famous line of "grab her by the pussy." Now, that is not the reason why I included this video, although it does display his pattern of disrespect towards women. The reason why I showed you this video in particular was because he talks about how he moves on women and how he just kisses them like a magnet without even waiting, pushes them against the wall. And while we go through each individual instance, you'll notice a pattern where he forcefully kisses people without consent, gropes them without consent, without waiting. And so the next video that I show you is going to be more focused around his USA pageants or Miss USA pageants, where he has mistreated a number of his contestants and has been said to go into these locker rooms and look at the woman naked, and that has made them feel very uncomfortable, is very unprofessional, and it does not happen or has not been exposed as to happening in other pageant circuits. So let's watch that.
Beautiful man.
Right.
I want to sleep with you. And
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now, tell
Well,
me
I'll
what
tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, you know, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like a
everything
doctor.
is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
So before we move into the next segment where we talk about the individual instances of sexual misconduct that Trump has been accused of, let's keep those two statements in mind. One, that he pushes women against the wall and just starts kissing them like a magnet without even waiting, and two, that he likes to go into the waiting rooms or into the changing rooms while they're naked and changing and inspecting them like merchandise. Jessica Leeds would claim that Donald Trump groped her on a plane back in the late 70s. He would come out later on and say that she would not be the chosen one.
I was sitting with him on an airplane, and he went after me on the plane. Yeah, I'm going to go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you. Man, you don't know. That would not be my first choice.
Lingering on that, whether or not Donald Trump was guilty of such a heinous crime, I think it is indicative of his character that, as a response to sexual assault allegations, his instinct would be to insult and defame the victim, stating that he did not find her attractive enough to assault. Kristen Anderson, a photographer and former model, would claim that Donald had put his hand up her skirt in a nightclub in the early 90s. Jill Harth had actually filed a lawsuit back in 1997 due to his sexual misconduct against her. Before moving forward, I'd like to mention that within all three of these cases, the sexual misconduct that was alleged was Trump groping these women non-consensually, which falls into his self-proclaimed MO. E. Jean Carroll claimed that in 1996, Donald Trump had raped her in a dressing room. In 2023, she took him to court where he was found liable for sexual assault as well as defamation. The court would refuse to award damages to E. Jean because the statute of limitation had since been reached. Amy Doris had said that Trump had forcibly kissed her at the US Open tennis match in 1997. She also alleges that he groped her butt and her breasts. Karina Virginia, a life coach and former model, would also claim that Trump had again groped and kissed her back in 1998. Nini Laaksonen, another model, would claim that Trump squeezed her butt back in 2016 backstage at a show. Karen Johnson also said she was groped and kissed at Mar-a-Lago, where she regularly attended back in the early 2000s. Kathy Heller would also come forward saying that Trump had forcibly kissed and groped her at Mar-a-Lago, saying that he became upset when she turned her head away from him. Melinda McGilvray claimed that Trump groped her back in 2003 at an event in Mar-a-Lago. Natasha Stoyanov, who was a reporter, wrote that while working on a story in Mar-a-Lago about his marriage to Melania, he had closed the door, pushed her up against the wall, kissed and groped her as well. Juliette Huddy, a former news host or anchor, would also claim in a podcast that he had forcibly kissed her back in the early 2000s. Jessica Drake, another adult film actress, would claim that Trump had kissed and groped her, saying that he offered her $10,000 to come up to his penthouse with her. Lisa Boyne reported back in 1996 that her and several other women would be forced to walk across a table while Trump looked up their skirts and made comments about their bodies and underwear. She would go on to say, quote, "It was the most offensive scene I'd ever been a part of." Alva Johnson, who worked on Trump's 2016 campaign, would allege in a 2019 lawsuit that Trump had kissed her without her consent. Rachel Crooks, who worked at Trump Tower, also mentioned unexpected kissing in 2005. Summer Zervos, a contestant on The Apprentice, would also claim to have experienced Trump kissing and groping her on 2 separate occasions. Temple Taggart would claim that Trump was forcibly kissing her back in 1997 at a Miss USA pageant. Cassandra Searles, another Miss USA contestant, would also corroborate claims that he would inspect each contestant like sexual objects, saying that it was the dirtiest I ever felt in my entire life. Bridget Sullivan, another Miss USA model, would also corroborate the claim of him going backstage while the women were dressing or naked. Tasha Dixon, again another Miss USA model, would make the same claim. Stacey Williams, who was at the time the girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein, would report that she was groped by Donald Trump while in the presence of Jeffrey Epstein while they smiled at each other in what she described to be a sick and twisted game. I think it's also relevant to note that Donald Trump has been reported to take a pleasure in seducing the wives of his friends or colleagues. She said, and I quote, "It became very clear then that he and Donald were really, really good friends and spent a lot of time together." So summarizing what we've been through so far, with him cheating on his first wife with his second wife and cheating on his third wife with a porn star, having an active role in affairs throughout his marriages as well as mistreatment towards his first wife, and a lack of consent and disrespect for women in general, where the over 24 women that have come out against him with allegations of sexual misconduct all seem to have stories that fall within his MO of forcing himself on them without even giving an opportunity to gain consent, as well as being treated like sexual objects backstage of his pageant circuit. Now, if you're thinking, where's the line with this guy, it sure isn't at his children. The next batch of videos that we're going to watch are about him sexualizing his daughters and how absolutely deplorable that behavior is within itself.
Donna, what does Tiffany have of yours and what does Tiffany have of Marla's?
Well, I think that she's got a lot of Marla. She's really a beautiful baby, and she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will.
Inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop it.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
She
Daughter
is.
Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
Yeah, she's hot.
So in these videos, he's talked about how hot his daughter is, how he'd be dating her if he wasn't her daughter. He talked about his 1-year-old baby, and already thinking about her breasts and her legs and things of that nature. And that Howard Stern clip that I played wasn't the best that there is. It is a further conversation that just is disgusting all of itself. And let's get to the closing statement, okay? So, closing statements. I understand that Donald Trump is an old man, okay? He comes from a time where objectifying women was a little bit more of a normal thing. Of course, he never expected to run for office. Well, he did say he might run for office. He talked about it a lot, but no one would have expected that he actually would run for office, so he wasn't monitoring all of his statements. Not that he's careful about his statements now, but that being said, we can't judge the past based off of modern standards. That doesn't make any of the things that he says less disgusting, and that doesn't make any of his behavior or any of the allegations against him any less horrendous. I think that it's pretty fair to say that the allegations made against him really do fit into the pattern of behavior that he admits to and that we have seen him talking about in the past. And I think also, even if only 1 or 2 out of every 10 people that came out against him were telling the truth, then that would still be way too many people. I didn't even go over every instance, just most of them. So that being said, I think it's fair to say that Trump is a misogynist. I think it's fair to say that he abuses women, both sexually and either mentally or physically. He doesn't think very much of them, and he thinks that he can do whatever he wants because of his power and influence. Thank you so much for watching. This is the part where I reach out directly to MAGA. MAGA, I'm talking to you. I would really love to open up discussions. I would really love to debate you. I would really love to hear why you support this individual. This individual who claims to have done more for women than anyone else, to respect women more than anybody else, to be the savior, the chosen one. He's called himself the chosen one. Now he's calling himself king. Why do you support this individual? If you don't care about bad character and low ethics and a lack of morals, then I do have more videos on the way that are going to talk about his failures in business, how he was never a good businessman to begin with, let alone even though he was painted that way. How his policies actually affected the U.S. economy when he was president the first time, and some of the things that he's doing now. And I will go into more tangible things that are less character focused, but until then, I would really like to know, what do you like about him? Do you like that he's crude and disgusting? Do you like that he is authoritarian? Do you like that he is so unlikable? Or do you just like that he makes decent people angry? Right now he's the leader of the Republican Party, a party that has always stood for, family values, a party that has always talked about being, sticking to the Constitution and the preservation of our institutions and not the dismantlement of those institutions, the party of law and order. And so, I would really like to see how and talk about how you can reconcile those ideals with the reality that is Trump. And if you even know about these things, I feel like a lot of people that I talk to in that sphere just don't know, right? And that's kind of the purpose of these videos as well. So anyhow, thank you guys so much for sitting through this, and, give a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe, because that's what everyone says to do. But until then, my name is Rudy, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.